Welcome back. You're watching Channel 1 News. Of course, our guest in studio, we have with us George Njoroge, who is the Managing Director at East Africa Data Handlers. And tonight we are focusing on cybersecurity and cybercrime. And of course, the theme for this, this month's awareness is own it, secure it, protect it.
Sure.
How do we own our space?
So the first thing is that we must understand that we are at risk. And the first primary rule is that the engagement is when you go online, you must understand that it is your responsibility to take care of yourself when you're using the computers and you're running online services, as it were. So the first rule is protect yourself.
How do you protect yourself?
So it is the principal thing that one of the things that is growing heavily is fake products, fake services that are intended to create a mechanism in which they're going to steal your data. And how we quickly protect ourselves is first ensuring that we don't easily just share our data online. Number two is ensuring that things like credit card are not just basically added or inserted on any website just merely because you want to buy products online. And third, and most importantly, the consistent use of our passwords. How well and how unique are our passwords in terms of trying to ensure that if for instance, my password cannot be guessed with my name. So if my password cannot be George Njoroge, then
Most of us like to keep it simple because we don't remember.
Yes, it is. And for instance, you find that one password is the one that is used across all your products, your Facebook, your Twitter and all that. So we find that immediately somebody learns one, then they'll be able to displace you on all their accounts. And above all things is ensuring that our privacy at all times is taken care of. So we don't share maybe our family photos, our children photos, and if we do, then we certainly are able to do after the effects. So for instance, if I am on holiday today, I don't say I'm in Malindi for 2 weeks, that somebody who wants to steal from my house at least knows they have 2 weeks to be able to steal from my house. Because it's very easy right now to steal from somebody merely because you know they're in holiday for 2 weeks or they've traveled for work, and you just are able to get access to the information owing to the fact that we are carelessly sharing a lot of information online without realizing that we expose ourselves too much. Yes.
So that is one of the ways to protect ourselves. So be careful of what we put online.
True.
So once, perhaps for an unfortunate reason you get, hacked, someone gets into your account, what next? How do you, or just before you even get to that, how do you tell that your account has been hacked?
So you find a lot of what you call mysterious activities happening on your machine. You all of a sudden have all these pop-ups. Maybe you are receiving unending emails, so spam emails. You're getting all sort of pop-ups when you browse. So be it porn sites, be it things that you know for a fact is that they lead to. There are a lot of anomalies that you're able to see. Number two is that you see now, if for instance, if you've been attacked with a ransomware, your machine is locked, and there's a screen notification notifying you that your machine is locked and you need to provide money immediately for you to have access to your data. And thirdly, you find that now a lot of your data is being, your internet traffic usage has gone very high. Somebody has access to your machine and they're able to copy a lot of your data. The other thing is that your machine can also be used as a relay. So your machine, all of a sudden you're told you're spamming to everybody without realizing that you're not spamming, you've not sent any email, but somebody is using your machine to send out additional emails outside. So that's some of the basic signs that you know you've been hacked.
You've been hacked.
Yeah.
You've talked about the ransomware. How big is the problem?
Well, it's a big problem globally. Ransomware hit $1 trillion mark last year.
Wow.
And what would happen is that, and what is happening basically is that somebody gets access to your machine or your phone,
yes,
sends a code into your phone that locks everything down. And then the next thing they do is they send us a message to you notifying you that your machine is locked and you cannot be able to have access to your data as until the point you have paid them a ransom for that particular purpose to release your data.
Do people pay?
Oh yes, they do. So there are organizations like ourselves who are uniquely placed with technology to be able to unlock those machines. But there are organizations, if you don't know us or you have not come across us, or if you don't find that your data is too complex for you to require this service, Then you decide to either format your machine altogether or just go ahead and pay. And the penalty or the ransom ranges from as low as 100,000 to as high as up to 100 million shillings. Yes.
Depending on what they have captured.
Yes, on what they have captured, yes. Yeah.
What about, the other aspect where, for instance, I'm looking to buy an item. So I just get into there and search for it.
Sure.
Then after that, I keep seeing, pop-ups telling me, do you want this kind of, it's sort of like someone is stalking me on the internet.
Yes.
I don't know if it's marketing or what really happens in those instances. How do they know what I want?
So there's a new technology innovated called retargeting that tries to look at your behavior when you search online. And if you're looking, for instance, for a shoe, all of a sudden you start seeing pop-up of shoes everywhere.
Shoes every other time you
So it is a technology that has been innovated, but in typical sense invades on your privacy.
Yes.
Because in essence, it tries to see what you're keying in and keeps following you until the day you commit. So what most people, or what is recommended you do, you install an antivirus that has internet security that at all times will protect your browsing activities and will ensure that any time that you're browsing, that mechanism is not enabled to allow you to have those pop-ups following you everywhere you're going on the internet.
Okay.
Yeah.
In terms of the common threats that you can get in an organization, what is it that you're looking at?
The biggest threat we have is what we call the insider man, or man within an organization that is reckless. So you find that, for instance, as much as we try to protect the organization, there are people who will browse porn, there are people who will bring their own devices from home and connect them to corporate network. There are people who will bring viruses through machines and applications they download from outside. And I've seen situations where people download movies and all from all over the world into your corporate network without them realizing they're exposing the organization to great risk. So you find that they are the biggest source of viruses. They are the biggest source of these anomalies you find within an organization. The other biggest issue is emails. So if you have no mechanism of filtering spam emails that are sent with viruses and you don't realize them, then you will download any email that you see, you click on any link that you see, and in essence what you're doing is that you're exposing yourself to theft of your data without you realizing. So these are the biggest risks that are there within a corporate that expose the organization to all this. But the best solutions, you find that all corporates now are implementing what is called endpoint security that protect the very devices that are being run by individuals, not necessarily at the network level, but at the individual level, which is the endpoint, at least to ensure that in case the individual is reckless, they have a mechanism in which they can protect that particular individual's machine. Yeah.
All right. And what about from an individual level, some of the common strategies that we've seen people using to rip off Kenyans online?
Well, there are a lot of fake propositions that are there. And the advent of internet is quite good and bad because everybody wants to become rich. And everybody has found a way of conning and making people feel that they'll get rich quickly. And there are all sort of schemes out there. So you'll be told, buy this cryptocurrency, buy this product, you'll get this, buy this service. By the time you know, you'll not have realized it. There are things like the Nigerian scam that are quite popular in terms of ensuring that people are conned. And it's so simple. You're just told, I am a young man of a rich Nigerian father. Please send me 20 million.
Those messages.
Yes.
All the time.
And by the time you know, they've stolen money from your account. You just shared your private information. You've sent them copies of your passports. And without you realizing, a lot of your resources have been stolen.
And of course, the one for jobs where you're being told.
Yes, fake jobs and all.
Yeah. All right. In terms of the law, is it, stringent enough to discourage cybercrime?
Well, yes and no. Yes, in terms of there are policies that have been set out. So in terms of the Computer Misuse Act that is available for us to use locally. But there's not much protection when it comes to other things like maybe child pornography that is not stringently followed. The use of the internet, for instance, in hotels, in cyber cafes and all that are strictly able to ensure that people don't access certain sites. Then the other challenge is the global application, the global way in which cybercrime is being committed. So the criminal may necessarily look like he's in Nairobi, but he's somewhere in Rome or somewhere in France trying to commit this. So as much as sometimes enforcing and trying to follow through with some of these criminals is quite difficult, because there are rings and there are networks of criminals that are operating from around the world. So they may have tentacles in Nairobi, but even the biggest criminals are way out there. So you find that enforcing the same is very difficult. So there are mechanisms in which there are global players. FBI is well and vast to try and ensure that the same is stopped. We find there are rules, there are mechanisms in which now cyber criminals are being arrested around the world. There is mutual agreement with different countries, at least to ensure that they're able to follow through process of crime and all that, at least to ensure that people are protected from all this. Yeah.
What about the cyber bullies? Do they get away?
Oh yes, they do. A lot. The biggest people who suffer, majority of them are children. The young ones that are recently in school.
Yeah.
And you find that a lot of cyberbullying is also happening on applications that are not necessarily online, like typically offline, like WhatsApp as an example, where it's a closed group platform in which we're a group of students that are there, and how you're bullied there, your material is shared without you realizing.
Yeah.
So a lot of these things are happening, and I've seen children that have committed suicide when the same has happened. We've seen parents who are exposed. So the same is happening. But also there are also other forums in which there's a lot of cyberbullying. You find that maybe there are forums in which you name and shame organizations and people, or fathers who are not necessarily paying for their dues.
They call the deadbeats.
Yes, and you find that they're quite trolled online and they're embarrassed, which is really not the way it should be. But that really happens, and you find people who've decided to live an offline life, not because they had chosen, but because somebody else has forced them to go offline. Yes.
All right, as we wind up, is it possible to become a ghost online, once you've already gotten in and now you feel it is too much for you?
Yes.
I want to just pull back and, delete everything.
Yes, there is. And there are ways in which you can delete your entire footprint online, and there are tools and companies that provide that service, where you can anonymously wipe your entire history on the internet and disappear without necessarily having to have traces. And all those previous materials that were previously shared about yourself are deleted. But others cannot be possible, owing to the fact that some of them have been shared millions and millions of times. And you find by the time you're trying to arrest it, it's gone way out of hand for you to reach it out.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, we're out of time, but I'll just give you a minute to look into the camera and perhaps just tell Kenyans what it is that they need to protect themselves as we celebrate the Cybersecurity Awareness Month.
So the first thing that we all must understand is that we have a responsibility to protect our data. Our data is the biggest asset we have. Data is now the most valuable asset in the world, over oil and everything else. So we must understand that the world is changing, and we must find ways and means of protecting ourselves. If we do find a way of protecting ourselves, we'll definitely win this battle. So the minute you protect yourself, the minute you protect your data, then you're home and dry.
You're home and dry. On it, secure it and protect it.
Thank you.
All right, this is where we put a cap on perspective, but of course we've been talking to Njoroge, the Managing Director of East Africa Data Handlers, just telling us some tips on how we can protect ourselves online. Not all is bad, of course there are good uses for the internet, but just be careful on what you post. We can delete it, but not always all the time, you said. All right, this is where we end it, but of course business news is up next.